everyone. I'm Corrie,
And I'm Charlotte.
and we are together literary ramblings. Welcome to the podcast. So, I have started listening to podcasts. Well, okay, that's a lie. I've started listening to one podcast
Mm.
in the last 3 weeks, which is really dumb because we've been doing this for like 4 or 5 months now,
Yep.
and neither Charlotte nor I listen to podcasts regularly. But I was listening to this podcast and they were talking about how one of the biggest problems that they had when they first started their podcast was they recorded some episodes and then the feedback that they got from family and friends, they were like, hey, you never introduced yourselves at all. Like you
Yep.
never really said like who you were or like why you were doing like nothing. And I was like, oh, Charlotte, we did that. We haven't, I mean, we talk about ourselves a little bit throughout each podcast, but we never like really start off with anything.
Nope.
So here we are. I think this is podcast number 5. I don't know. I can't keep track
I
of
believe so.
anything. So I guess we should say something about ourselves. I mean, this is a great time to do it because Charlotte has a cold
Yep.
and I have a headache that I've had for like 2 or 3 days. So the podcast is already going to be lit.
You really know who we are after this.
Yeah, for sure. This is it. This is how you'll learn about us. Well, I guess we both feel very, what is the word? Qualified to do a podcast on literature because both of us
Even though we couldn't think
have.
of the word qualified.
Yeah, shut up. We're qualified but not prepared. How about that?
Yeah.
To do a literary podcast on the books that we read because both of us have degrees in creative writing. We both went to the same college together, and we both got creative writing degrees, obviously, and then I got a minor in sociology, and Charlotte got her minor in geology. So,
very relevant.
Yeah, we have very rounded educations,
Yes.
being honest. I mean, I went into sociology because I enjoy studying people. I thought I wanted to go into psychology at first, but then I realized I didn't really like case studies or like individuals. I liked groups.
Yeah.
So now I use that in all the writing that I don't do. So that's fun.
I occasionally write about rocks, so I mean, my interests find their way back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like geology would be good for like setting the scene and for creating like fantasy worlds in particular.
Yeah.
Because they have a lot of rocks and gemstones and like different places that you could go, and you would realistically be able to build those places with different like sediments and stuff.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. I would just make stuff up. I'd be like, look at the rocks. They're black and they're
It's
shiny.
pointy.
Yeah, like that's all I would have. Whereas you could use like actual terminology that would like enrich the story. So yeah, so that's a little bit about us. I guess we'll have to like figure out if we want to do like icebreaker questions or if we just want to like fly by the seat of our pants, which is honestly how I run my entire life. So
yeah, vote in the comments.
Yeah, let us know if there's anything in particular that you want to know about us. If you've been listening to a couple of podcasts, which I doubt, judging from our view count, but whatever, If you have any questions for us, I'm sure that we'd love to answer them. You can always email us through the YouTube channel. So, But yeah, maybe I'll keep listening to this one podcast and I'll pick up some more tidbits and stuff. They actually said something in another podcast that like blogging, like the golden age of blogging is like gone. And I was like, bite your tongue. That's not even true. Like, it's just
every time I
objectively
need a
not
recipe
true.
online, I'm at a blog, so
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess it's because they podcast, so they're like they're better than me.
This is the new medium.
Yeah. It kind of is, but I mean, obviously, we're really good at it because our podcasts don't even appear with other podcasts. We're so unique that we're only on YouTube.
That makes
All
us
right.
exclusive.
It's yeah. We've got. That's what we'll call it.
Uh-huh.
Stay exclusive. It'll be great. Okay. So this month, we are talking about the book Along the Indigo by Elsie Chapman, and this was my club pick for us. And I'm pretty sure last time I didn't come up with a summary for the book that I picked, and this time I also still didn't come up with a summary for this pick. And I think it's because I keep picking bad books. So they're harder to come up with a summary for because you really just want to be like, yeah, well, it was fine, or it sucked, and then that's it. So you know what? I'm going to just read the inside cover
That's fair.
because who better to write the little book blurb than an actual professional publishing company anyway, unless your name is Charlotte, in which case she's really good at writing these.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not, though. All right. In the sleepy town of Glory, secrets are a way of life. Glory is famous for two things: businesses that front for seedier, if not illegal, enterprises, and the suicides that happen along the Indigo River. Mars is desperate to escape the bed and breakfast where her mother works as a prostitute and where her own eventual fate has been decided, and she wants to give her little sister a better life. But escape means money, which leads Mars to skimming the bodies that show up along the Indigo River. It's there that she runs into Jude, who has secrets of his own and whose brother's suicide may be linked to Mars's own sordid family history. As they grow closer, the two unearth truths that could allow them to move forward or chain them to the Indigo forever. So that is the inside summary, the little book blurb for Along the Indigo. And I gave this book 2 stars on Goodreads.
I think I'm too generous. I gave it 2.5.
Oh yeah? Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you can't really show. Would you round it down to 2 or would you round it up to 3?
I'd round it down. You're right.
Okay. So it's fair. So we both basically gave it the same. Because you can't do half stars, which still kind of sucks.
Oh.
Well, I mean, we can do half stars here.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
like if you were just rating it, like I rate everything on Goodreads, and I'm trying to continue to rate everything on Amazon as well, but I haven't actually written like my review for this book. I just kind of rated it because I was kind of busy when I finished it. So I haven't gotten around to doing that yet. But so 2 stars, which for me, I always start at 3 stars anytime I start reading a book, and if it's better or if it's good and it impresses me, then the stars go up, and if it's not great and I am less impressed with it, then the stars rating goes down. I have a lot of 3-star ratings because typically, even if a book is just okay, I'm like, I'll just keep it at 3 stars. Usually I can see its merits.
Yeah.
I don't remember now. I need to check what I actually gave House of Ash because both of us really compared this to House of Ash.
I might have been more generous to House of Ash.
I can't remember. How long ago did we read
It was
that?
one of the first ones we did.
I'm sorry. I am scrolling through
Trying to see what it is.
Yeah, and I can't find it because I wrote reviews for everything. So why? Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, I actually gave House of Ash 3 stars.
Yeah.
3 out of 5 stars.
I got a good memory.
Yeah. Well, that book was just okay. So we compared it a lot to House of Ash, and part of that is because it has the same character dynamics in it.
Yep.
It has extremely similar character dynamics, except Along the Indigo includes a more overt love interest, I guess. I guess House of Ash did have a love interest. It just wasn't as... It was more like they grew to care about each other and then the book ended. Whereas this one is like they're clearly already in a relationship before the book ends.
Yep.
Should we give the spoiler warning now?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's your spoiler warning, guys. So the story is about Marsden, or the book blurb calls her Mars. She's called both throughout. But Marsden and her little sister Wynn, which if you remember from House of Ash, that's literally the little sister's name in that as well.
The name
Was
is
it
haunting
actually?
us.
Yeah, was it actually both Winifred in each of these? Because I don't remember.
No, I don't remember, but
Okay.
they both went by
Well,
Win.
yeah, they're both called Win throughout their books, which immediately was like, oh, this is very similar to House of Ash, and the fact that it's an older sister with a younger sister.
Yep.
So Marsden and Win live with their mother at a boarding house that doubles as a brothel, and they are indebted to the boarding house's owner, which is Nina. So Nina paid off a bunch of Marsden's father's debt after
Yep.
he died. He had a lot of debt, and their mom went to Nina because she's a businesswoman, and so Nina paid off the debts, and now they are. It's been like what, 8 years,
Yeah.
and they're still in debt to Nina. But I get the impression that Nina never tells them like where they are
Yeah.
in paying off the debt, so they're just kind of there. And their mom started off as just a housekeeper, but then because she really wasn't making any money, surprise, you don't make any money when you work for the person you owe money to.
Yep.
So she moved onto prostitution within the brothel, and then yeah. So Marsden wants to get her and her little sister out. Her mother is just emotionally unavailable all the time, so she's kind of useless to them, and she is codependent on her children, so she doesn't really want them to leave, even though staying kind of inevitably sort of means that her children will eventually become prostitutes as well,
Yep.
because that's just the way it is on this space. I keep saying a lot. Why do I do this to myself?
I take them out with.
Yeah, okay. So they're living there on the boarding house, and they live there because their family history, like they have history in the town of Glory. Like they own a piece of land near the boarding house. And that's part of the reason why they're there, is because they're still there. And part of it is because they own a piece of land that's like, it's a covert, which I had to look up the definition for because I'm not very smart.
I wasn't familiar with it either.
It's kind of an interesting little thing, but it's like it is a thicket in which game can hide,
Yep.
which is odd. I actually tried to look up a picture of it to see if I could get a visual idea of what it actually is, and I really couldn't find much.
Huh.
It's hard to envision, but it's supposed to be like there's definitely part of the river running through it, I guess,
Yeah.
or it's part
Or
of.
behind it.
Yeah, but there's definitely like water involved in it in some way. And then it's just the rest of Glory, the town, is not desert, but it's very like sparse. It's not, the sun is really hot all of the time. There's not a lot of vegetation. So there's this, it's like, I guess I imagine it's sort of an oasis kind of space.
Yeah. A shady
And
spot.
yeah, it's not huge. I think she described it as just over the size of a basketball court, but I
Yeah.
can't remember for sure. So, but yeah, so they own that portion of land. But people go there to commit suicide because of the family history, which is that a family murder happened there. And it's like part of the identity of the town of Glory.
Well, yeah, a murder happened there, and then there was a rumor that the ground was like cursed, but like kind of not cursed in a way, because it was said that if you committed suicide there, but you had the dirt from the covert in your pockets, you would still go to heaven.
Yeah. So I didn't really understand how they got all that.
Me neither.
I guess legends kind of grow over time, I suppose, but it's really not very clear. So that's the premise. That's the whole setup. They're
Yep.
kind of stuck there between the land that their family owns and the boarding house to which they're beholden. And
And yeah, they basically can't sell the land to get out of debt because no one wants it because everyone in town knows what it is. Like,
Yeah.
we'll just go there to commit suicide.
Yeah. Marston is 16 and her younger sister is 8. So her younger sister was born. I didn't know if her younger sister was born just before her father died or just after. So. It was just before? Okay.
Well,
I can't remember.
I know
I don't know if they ever say anything.
She never knew their dad, but any time at the first time of life, it'd be like, you don't know your dad then. So.
Yeah. Oh, and her father, it's implied, well, her father died in the covert 8 years ago. And the papers reported it as an accident, and Marsden has been led to believe that it was a suicide. And then part of one of the subplots of this book, I don't know what the main plot is actually now that I'm talking about this, but a subplot is her trying to figure out if that's true, if it was really an accident or a suicide, or if somebody actually murdered him.
Yeah, because the night he died, he had won a big $4,000 gambling.
Yeah.
He was a degenerate gambler, basically. That's why he had all those debts.
Yes. But he'd won a lot of money that night, but then when they found his body, there was no money.
Yep.
So, Marsden goes out and skims bodies, which just means that she checks in the morning to see if anybody is out there, and then if there's somebody out there, she takes cash from them. She doesn't take jewelry or anything, because the sheriff of the town is super crooked, and he takes the jewelry.
Yeah.
And he fences it at the pawn shop, and she doesn't have the guts to go to the pawn shop and fence off all of the people's stolen items, so she doesn't take things. She only takes money. But she's been saving up for several years, for actually only a couple years, because I assume that she was saving some money before, but when she was 14 is when she had this moment where one of the clients of the boarding house looked at her, and she's 14, and he asked Nina when Marsden would be available.
Yep.
And that's when she was like, I have to get out of here, and I have to get out of here with my little sister, because obviously, like, this is inevitable. So that's also kind of a subplot, is that she has been working to save money, but now that she's 16, I don't know why the cutoff was 16, but Nina is starting to pressure her.
I think it's the age of consent. I think that's why 16.
Is that the age of
I think in some southern states it is. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that. So she's 16 now, and Nina's like, hey, you need to become a prostitute because you'll make more money that way, which obviously just means that she's going to make Nina more money that way, because right now she's just working in the kitchen. And that is like, okay. So that was a lot of plot stuff, which obviously, like, we needed to get through, because there's a lot of subplotting going on in this book, and there's not a lot of, like, plot going on in this book. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody listening, but usually in a book, you have one main goal that your character is working towards.
Yeah.
Whoever the main character is, it's like, for example, in this book, I would have expected from the first few chapters that the main goal was to get out of glory.
Yeah.
But then that's sort of lost along the way, and then a whole bunch of other subplots come in. But if it was a good plot, then it would come up throughout the book, and it would be like she would always go back to it. She'd always go back to, I am going to leave this place with my little sister. But she doesn't really do that.
Nope. She just kind of by the end of the book, she's just given up on leaving glory.
Yeah, spoiler. Like, obviously we already gave the spoiler warning, but spoiler alert, she just decides to stay, essentially, which is really irritating. In the very beginning of the book, that's like her only goal, is to get out, is to leave her mom behind, and she's like conflicted. I think that she is realistically conflicted.
Yeah.
But then that turns into a subplot, because then she meets Jude, and Jude is looking for a time capsule that his brother buried in the covert years ago. And his brother committed suicide in the covert like 3 weeks before
Yeah.
he comes to the covert to ask if he can look in the covert for this time capsule. And so then that becomes a subplot where Marsden is doing that with him every afternoon where they're looking around in the covert, and then she starts having feelings for him. And I feel like maybe that's the plot more than anything else.
Yeah.
Because that's really the
It's
most
more of a
important thing in
romance.
this book. Yeah, it's weirdly more of a romance. And it's crazy to me because there's all these times where you work up to these really intense emotions. So Marsden has like $1,500 saved up. Okay, she just has it in cash hidden in her room, and she lets it slip to her mom that she has this money, and immediately I was like, I hate this. I hate that subplot where somebody is saving a bunch of money and then the bad guy comes in and they just take it all away and you can't do anything about it. And I don't know if that's just because I had siblings. Well, I still have them. I have siblings who used to do things like that to me, and I'm sure I did that to them at some point too. But it's like that makes me like so viscerally angry, and that's exactly what happens. Nina finds out about the money because Marsden's mom is just she's useless to her children. She's absolutely useless. And so she basically tells Nina that Marsden has this money. Nina takes the money and then she says, "You only have a couple of days and then you have to start working for me. Like become a prostitute." And I was like, "Well, this is horrible." And Marsden like has a moment where she's like panicked and then Jude kind of just like walks into the scene and then she just forgets about it.
Yep. She forgets all of her problems because the guy is there.
Yeah. And then like over the next couple days, she doesn't even like think about it.
Nope.
And I was like, isn't this like a looming threat? Isn't this something that like needs to be dealt with?
She
Why
never
are you so
brings it up
chill?
to Jude at all.
No, she never tells him. She doesn't tell him like anything, which I get because she's supposed to be emotionally walled off.
Yeah.
She's not. No, neither of them are supposed to be super open with each other. But it just seems like he would be like kind of her ticket out of there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like she never even broaches the subject as far as being like, hey, me and you should like leave this town, you know?
Yeah, but she never does that. And it's really frustrating because it seems like together they could probably get out of glory. Like one person, like a 16-year-old on her own with an 8-year-old in tow is not going to get very far, especially with no money. But if you had the 16-year-old, a 17-year-old, and the 8-year-old, I feel like they might be able to make it. I don't know. They would at least have a better chance.
They
I'm
can at
not
least
saying,
watch each other's backs.
yeah, yeah, I'm not saying anybody should do that, but you know, it would make a lot more sense if they went together, but she never talks about it. Every time Jude comes up, it's like the whole book just stops.
Yep.
And it's really
Stops for the
frustrating.
romance.
Yep. And it's really frustrating because there's so many different things that are going on in this book. You've got the time capsule with Jude, you've got Nina's threat, you've got the fact that she has no money now, the fact that she feels tied to the land because she feels tied to Glory because she feels tied to the covert. And then there's another subplot where she's supposed to be able to hear the dead, but she can't. And it's because that, well, the hearing the dead apparently is supposed to run in her family. Her grandmother was like a medium or whatever, and then her mom told her to not try to do that at all. So Marsden like suppressed the gift of hearing the dead, and now she can't hear the dead even when she wants to. She's always trying to like hear her father in the covert so that he can tell her that it wasn't her fault that he died because she thinks that she like part of it is her fault, even though she was 8.
Yep.
But that's another subplot. And then
Because
there's
her
another
dad made
subplot.
some comment about not wanting to be a father.
Yeah. So she thinks it's all her fault, which honestly any 8-year-old would probably think that.
Yeah.
But then there's another like kind of subplot where the town itself is like against them and she's mixed race, and Jude is mixed race too.
Yep.
And I feel like that kind of, honestly, it makes me feel like she is making her mixed race more of a big deal than it is. Because the town has no problem with Jude.
Nope.
And they really, honestly, they don't really seem to have a problem with her either. It's very odd because we see all these things through her perspective where she's like, they're all staring at me. Everybody hates us. Like, no, they all talk about us behind our backs because of, they all know what goes on in the bed and breakfast, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, but that's like literally every business in town. Like, it's not a secret that every single business, like, there's illegal gambling going on, there's the brothel, there's.
I mean,
What?
they do bring up the idea that her mom is like specifically sought out by people because she's exotic looking, like as a prostitute.
Yeah.
So like from that angle it mattered, but yeah, as far as her interactions with other people in the town, it doesn't ever seem to come up.
No. Nobody ever seems to, like, she seems to think that everybody is treating her differently, but they really, like, aren't. Like, there's not actually any examples of somebody treating her differently. If anything, people would like her to come around more. Like,
Yeah, there's
Marsden
that
goes.
friend.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's that friend of her grandma's who basically her mom didn't like, so her mom told her not to go hang out with her anymore, and she was supposedly psychic. And when Marsden finally goes to see her, like the woman hasn't held anything against her and is like happy to see her, basically.
Yeah. And then she reaches out to one of her dad's old friends who runs the pawn shop in town. And he's not, like, he doesn't have any grudges either.
Nope.
He's not rude to her. He's like, hey, I wish that I could see you more because I was really good friends with your dad. And I'm kind of sad that, you feel like you can't come in here. And I was like, oh, see, so he's a nice guy. The grandma's friend was a nice lady. And that's about it. And even like Jude has a bunch of friends and they all treat her very respectfully. None of them treat her like differently at all. And I'm just like, I just don't really like. I feel like the author really wanted some intense social commentary here. And it just falls flat because there's just no real examples of any negative repercussions because of them being mixed race. It's brought up quite a few times.
Yeah.
But apart from her mom and like being considered exotic, it's not really any kind of issue at all. It just really isn't. It's very weird. It's one of those things that's brought up a lot and then I'm like, why is this brought up a lot? It doesn't seem to have much bearing on the actual story. And then hearing the dead also doesn't have much bearing on the actual story at all. And it's really weird because she spends all this time being like, oh, I wish I could hear the dead. And then, I guess another spoiler, she can hear the dead in the end. But it's like in the last couple chapters where she's like sitting with Jude and they find the time capsule. And like everything's interconnected with like her family and his family and stuff that happened. And I don't really know if I care enough to go into all of it. But she just kind of like sits down with Jude and then she's like, I just have to let go. She's been trying too hard to hold on to the dead, like always trying to hear her dad and blah blah blah. And then when she lets go, she can suddenly hear the dead.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, what?
You tried too hard.
Yeah, I was like, that literally makes just like, I mean, I guess within the story, I guess it makes sense, but nothing is ever talked about for that. Like, you'd think that the grandma's friend could have brought something up.
It got to
like
the point
even
where
something
I was
vague.
like, is this even real? Like, is this even an actual ability? And then all of a sudden it is real, and you're like, but it's the very end of the book, and you're like, well, now it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, like it doesn't. Like she doesn't learn any new information.
Nope.
She just kind of like hears the dead, and she's like, yeah, your dead brother wants you to know that he cares about you, and it's like, wow, like he didn't know that.
Yep.
He knew that already.
Yep. Yeah.
So that was something that was just like suddenly resolved and like the 11th hour. In fact, all her problems are resolved in like the 11th hour. And I
Yeah.
really hated the way that everything was resolved because essentially she finds out that Nina and one of the clients are stealing people's money because the client is in banking, and so he and Nina get banking information, and then I can't remember if they said that they were like blackmailing them or they were just literally like siphoning money from these people's accounts
Yeah, I don't
or
remember.
whatever. But whatever they're doing, it's definitely illegal. And so Marsden finds out about this and she blackmails Nina with it.
Yep.
And then she stays living in the boarding house.
Yeah.
And I
Then
was
that's
like,
her solution. Yeah, so she totally gives up on leaving Glory. She's like, I'm dating
yeah.
Jude now and everything's hunky dory.
Yeah, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, do you think that blackmailing this ruthless businesswoman is a long-term solution?
Yeah. Logically, it doesn't make any sense. Like, now Nina
No.
hates you, so why are you still living at her
Yeah.
house?
Yeah. Like, there's
And
just no
also, your
hint of doing
sister's.
anything else.
And also, the whole book, she's like worried about her sister seeing these prostitutes and like admiring the life that they have. And then it's like, well, if you keep living here, she's going to keep doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, she's not protecting her sister. She's not, I don't know. Like, her whole goal at the beginning was to get out of there. And then throughout the book, she's like, I'm so attached to this land. And I'm like, are you though? Like, your mom still lives there. Technically, your mom is the one who owns the land.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why you have to stay there. You could literally just leave and you
Yep.
come back and visit your mom every once in a while. And then when your mom is gone, then you have to deal with the land. But that could be like 50 years down the road. Her mom's only in like her 30s.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know. It's just there's no real solution at the end. She just wanted to date Jude, so she stays in Glory, and she's like blackmailing the most ruthless business person in town. And I was like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just be like, look, Nina, I need $50,000, and then I'll be out of your hair forever.
yep.
I'm leaving Glory. I'm taking Win with me. Goodbye. And then she could have like gone off, and she probably could have made a decent life for herself. She's very resourceful, and she's pretty intelligent. I don't know why this was her solution. I don't know how
Nope.
this would be her solution.
Yeah. It just felt like not very thought through at all.
Yeah, it was irritating. And it really is in like the last couple chapters
Yep.
where it's all of a sudden everything is resolved. And I really hate that. That's a huge pet peeve of mine where suddenly everything is kind of fixed in just a couple of pages. And it was literally just Marsden working up the courage to confront a couple of people. And that's about it. That's all she had to do to fix her entire life.
Yep. That's how
Makes
problems are solved, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I mean, absolutely no sense. The whole book. Oh, there were a lot of moments in the book, like I said, that build up to emotional moments, and then there's like
Yeah.
not the payoff. That money one was the first one that I really noticed because it just cuts off so fast. It's like she's suddenly building into all these emotions. Like Marsden's entire life has just been ripped away from her.
Yeah.
She's like,
All of her plans.
yep. And she's like, I am literally about to be forced into sexual slavery. And all my money is gone. I have no recourse. My mom is basically in cahoots with this, and she's not going to protect me, which means that she's not going to protect my little sister in a few years either when she gets old enough.
Yeah.
And then it's all just kind of like forgotten. It really reminded me when we talked about Ruin of Kings. And you pointed out, you said it feels like this author gets to moments and then doesn't feel like writing them. And so she doesn't.
Skip some. Yep.
Yep. And I was like, wow, that's exactly what this book feels like. It feels like she gets to these moments and then she just skips them. And I don't know if it's because she doesn't know how to write them or if she just didn't feel like they were necessary or what. But that was a moment that I felt like should have been written. I felt like when Jude came in after that, something should have happened like between them that would have made them like closer. She should have opened up at that point because she would have been on an emotional high and not in a good way.
Yeah.
and it could have done something for them, but it really didn't. And then there's another moment, one of the girls from the house actually goes down to the covert and commits suicide in the story.
Yeah.
And that was another moment because Marsden goes down and finds her body, and she finds it with Jude.
Yeah.
Like, Jude's there with her, and she goes back up to the house. She's like, Jude, you have to leave. Like, I have to go call the sheriff and like do all this stuff. She kind of like goes into business mode essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes back up to the house, and I was like, oh wow, this is going to be really interesting, because all this time we have seen Nina as somebody who just doesn't care about anybody around her. She's very fake, which we know because we're told that she's fake, not because, like, I guess we kind of see her being fake.
Yeah, I guess a little bit.
But there's a little bit. There's enough that I don't think that it's unwarranted. But we've basically been told a lot about Nina and a lot about the house and a lot about everything that's going on. And I was like, wow, okay, this is going to be a really good time to see who Nina really is, because this is the moment that it would be very clear whether Nina genuinely cares about her girls or if she really just is a narcissistic sociopath.
Yeah.
And you know what happens? We skip the whole thing.
Yep. Literally the worst time jumps in this book.
Yeah.
Just
absolutely.
Almost every end of a chapter is a time jump, and not in the good way.
Yeah. A lot of it is unnecessary. Unnecessary time jumps. You just skipped stuff. And I was like, why would you skip this moment with Nina? Like, you could have had a moment with Nina. You could have had a moment with her mom. You could have had all of these really good times to see the true characters of these people. But we just skip it.
And yeah, it just felt, like you said, it just felt like she wanted to skip them. And yeah, and it just cut all the meat out of the story, because it's like that's the parts you would have actually cared about that could have actually had like lasting repercussions, and instead it's just kind of glossed over.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just really frustrating. There's other moments in here as well that are similar to that, where stuff is starting to happen and then all of a sudden it's just like they just skip it. And I'm just like, I mean, time jumps have their place in books, obviously, but it just felt like they were used a little too much.
And I guess my problem with this story, is that it never feels like it's going anywhere, and there's nothing unique enough about it to like cure it. Because at least in House of Ash, like the premise of a living house, like, and one that connects people through time is interesting. This was just like, maybe Marsden can hear ghosts, but not really.
Yeah.
And like nothing. I mean, yeah, the suicides are awful and like, impactful and whatever, but they're not, plot wise, nothing is really happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
it's literally just her wandering around a thicket.
Yes. A lot. And it's just like there's all these like fake forced connections between like Jude's family and Marsden's family, which I just hated. Every single time one of them happened, I was like, why do I even care? Like, it's there's a lot of wild ginger that grows in the covert, and nobody really understands why, because it hasn't always been there, but it's been there long enough that Marsden really associates wild ginger with the covert. And it's revealed that after Jude's mom died, his brother took one of her plants and replanted it in the covert. And it was the wild ginger.
And that's
it's
what
like
started it.
Yeah, and it's like treated as like this big important thing, and I was like, this isn't important. Like, this literally doesn't matter. Like, nothing about this matters. The fact that a child went to the only shady spot he could find in the whole of town because that's what ginger needed to grow does not mean anything for the rest of the plot.
Nope. It was treated like this big revelation, and it was like, okay, he planted a plant in a place that the plant wanted to grow. Cool.
Yeah, like that was it. And I was like, I don't understand why this seems so important. It's not. There's
Yeah.
something else. You were saying
Well, I was comparing it to House of Ash, and I was also going to
yes.
say, so it has the protective sister, the protective older sister who tries to take care of their younger sibling. Granted, Mars is more successful at that, but that's almost boring.
Honestly,
You have
true.
the ineffective mom who has like a bad love life that gets her children into trouble. Although the House of Ash mom was more actively evil, I would say.
Yes.
Uh, and then, yeah, the missing dad, the surrogate stepdad who's not good, the love interest who doesn't know anything about what's happening in the girl's life, but somehow falls in love with them anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it's eerily similar. I didn't expect it to be this similar.
The fact that they all ride on bicycles for some reason, I don't know. I guess biking is just a bigger thing. I mean, I guess the other one was a dirt bike, but still.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah. Wow, you're right. At least she rode her bike a lot more than Mila rode her horse
Yeah.
in House of Ash. There's also like the weird supernatural element to it, although I think House of Ash did a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna talk about a little bit, is that in House of Ash, I think we both gave it a higher star rating, and I was a lot nicer to House of Ash because I thought that there were some really interesting concepts introduced throughout. And I think you were kind of getting at the same thing, which is just that the idea of like a living house and like the supernatural elements mixed with like kind of the occult practices and then the science and all that was like really interesting. And even though it didn't really go anywhere in House of Ash, like it didn't accomplish a lot, it still felt like something was happening. And it
Yeah.
felt like I could, like, if I wrote a book and I drew inspiration from House of Ash, I would have something to draw from.
Yeah.
But with Along the Indigo, there's really just nothing. There's like a vaguely sinister grove.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's vaguely sinister. I think that if she could have heard the dead from the beginning, it would have had a lot more meaning.
Oh yeah.
But
100%.
she,
Because as
yeah,
it was just like people come to this grove for a variety of reasons. They've just heard it's a good suicide spot, and you don't get any of their stories or like other than Jude's brother, like
yeah,
and a little bit Peaches, but for the most part, it's just kind of like, oh, just another dead body laying there, and it's like kind of grim, but there you
yeah,
don't
it's
know anything
grim, but it's
else.
not scary and it's
Yeah.
not sinister and it's not like the there's a really like it's really really pushed throughout the book that the covert is like its own entity.
Yeah.
Like
Like
Marsden
the house.
really pushes that idea. Yeah, and it's similar to the house, except that the covert never does anything. The covert
Nope.
does not actually have its own personality or its own character. I think that Along the Indigo tried really hard to make the town and the covert into its own characters, but
And
it
it did not.
failed.
Yep.
Yeah, whereas in House of Ash, I feel like they at least succeeded in making the house its own character.
Yeah.
They at least succeeded in heavily implying that. I don't
And
remember if they like did super super well with it, but it was there and I would
yeah.
have said like yes, they're trying very hard to make this its own character and they do things to implement that. Whereas in Along the Indigo, it's like they really want it to be its own character, but they really just keep referring to it.
Yeah. And I would also say this is just kind of funny to me, but I feel like a lot of these books have misleading titles because I didn't picture the indigo as blue. She kept talking about it being muddy.
Yeah.
So I'm
She
like,
makes
why?
that point several times.
Yeah, so I'm like, why is it called the indigo then? Like, did
Yeah.
it used to be beautiful? Like,
Yeah, and
why is it called this?
they don't actually talk about the river that much. I mean, they
No.
talk about it. They're like, "Oh, yeah, it's a staple in the town or whatever," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Okay, but it doesn't like actually matter,
Yeah.
like
So like
pretty
why is
much
it
at
the
all."
title? I don't
I don't
know.
know. I
I
don't
guess
know.
her dad did die right by it or ended up in the river, but
Yeah, but then at the same time, it's like, does that really like warrant the title of the book?
no.
You
No, it
know? And
doesn't.
I thought the skimming bodies would be like a bigger thing too, and it's really not. Everything in this book that's introduced, you think is going to be important, and it's just not.
Yep.
And I think that bothers me more in this book than it did in House of Ash, because House of Ash at least had good concepts. And House of Ash had some really, really intense moments.
Yes. It did a good job with the emotional punches.
Yes. Whereas I feel like Along the Indigo, like we've already talked about, you skip them.
Yep.
You skip the emotional moments. The moments that really matter are just glossed over. They're just not cared about.
And characters just kind of wander in and out of this book. Like, Wynn will just disappear for a couple chapters, and then she'll be very prominent again, and then she'll disappear again, and you'll be like...
Their mom vanished for, like, the last third of the book.
Yeah.
There's, like, one scene... She only has, like, 2 or 3 scenes with her, and they're all short. Yep. And then she just vanishes. We talk about her a little bit here and there, but then she's just gone. She's off page the entire rest of the time. And I'm just like, why? Why are we like this? And then Jude's friends, I was kind of hoping that they would either be full-fledged characters or, like, not at all. But I don't know if it's just that Marsden is extremely introspective, but she, like, pegs all of Jude's friends, like, pretty immediately. She's like, oh, this is the mom of the group. This is the Joker of the group. This is the warrior of the group. And it's like, what? You met these people for 10 minutes.
Yeah. And they literally, and then they do pretty much play those roles, though.
They do, but they're so, like, minor. Like, we see she accidentally goes to lunch with Jude and his friends one day because of Wynn more than anything else. They run into them, and then Wynn is like, yeah, we were just going to go inside for lunch. And Marsden is like, no.
Yeah.
But they do it anyway. And so she spends, all of, like, 25 minutes total with these 3 other people. And then we never see the girl again.
Nope.
One of Jude's friends. And then the 2 boys we see later, but really, really briefly.
Wait, we do see the girl again because there's that brief moment of jealousy. Which is stupid.
Yeah, I really hated that too. There's as soon as they started, like, falling in love with each other, I was like, there's gonna be some stupid, like, 3rd act emotional betrayal between them that's gonna get, like, glossed over relatively quickly. And then guess what? There was a stupid 3rd act emotional betrayal that was glossed over pretty quickly. In fact, they don't even talk it out. They literally don't even talk it out, because Jude gets mad at her, and then he leaves, and then he comes back to her, and he's like, hey, I'm sorry that I got mad at you. And that was it. That was, like, the whole thing. And I was like, I didn't realize until right then when I was saying that they really just didn't even have a conversation. No. They literally just, like, leave each other for a little bit, and then Jude comes back and they both apologize.
Yeah, and he's like, I just needed to talk to her, or, like, get comfort from her or something, and it was like, oh. Yeah.
They literally just, like, hugged.
Yep.
Like, outside of a restaurant, and that was it. And Marsden happened to see it. And I'm just like, this whole book. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing that it feels like.
Do you know what else this is rated, or, like, did you look at any reviews for this book?
I did after we were done, and it's funny because I looked it up on Goodreads and I looked up House of Ash, and they have the same rating. Oh, they really? Both have a 3.5. Like, as of recording this, they both have a 3.5. Yeah. And I think it was, I can't remember. I know I looked it up on Amazon, and I know it was kind of low. It was, like, around between 3 and 4 mark as well. And I was like, I'm going to have to get better at picking books, to be perfectly honest. I don't know why I keep doing this. I know why I keep doing it. It's because I am cheap and I am broke. And the books that I found both House of Ash and this one, Along the Indigo, at a discount store.
I mean, so I'm getting like $3 discount stores.
Yeah, but you pick books because
I pick very weird books.
Yeah, you also choose books based on the fact that you want to read them. I pick up books and I'm like, this one's $3. And then I look at the inside cover and I'm like, yeah, I could probably read this. And then that's how I pick it.
I could probably read this, Corrie says, as an English major who could read just about anything.
Yeah, I'm capable. But that's how I pick books, and that's why I end up with House of Ash and Along the Indigo. I don't regret reading House of Ash.
No.
I might put Along the Indigo into a stack of books that like I don't necessarily regret reading it, but there's really just nothing about it that like matters to me.
No, you can't recommend this book to anyone.
No, because it's just kind of
it's fairly short.
So bland. It's so bland. What's that meme? If it was a spice, it would be flour.
Yes, that's
what it would be.
Quote. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what this would be. Because it's just so dull. There's just nothing worth reading in it. It's just like so boring. I would give this to like somebody who was like, I literally just have to like read for 5 minutes every day. Like, all right, well, if nothing else matters, then just here you go. Here's something.
Easy.
It's easy to get through. It's a quick read. It's whatever. You're not gonna like it, and you're not gonna hate it either. Probably though. It's just so bland.
It's like some of the descriptions were good, but
some of the descriptions were weird too.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't think that I could point one out now because now that I've said it out loud, I'm not gonna be able to find anything. But sometimes it was just like it felt like the description was trying a little too hard. It wasn't like so bad that I like didn't like it or something.
Some of the romantic parts. Yeah, some of the romantic parts got good.
Yeah.
But it was just very teen romance. Like you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just like, all right, you guys are obsessed with each other.
Cool.
I get it.
The food descriptions were good.
They were.
Maybe that's her true calling.
Maybe she should be a food writer instead. Well, we have a lot more books to read this year. Well, I mean, it's July as of recording this. I don't know if we'll get this out in July, but we're recording it in July. And then we don't read for December.
Yes.
So what is this? So we have August, September, October, November. Yeah, we might just talk about something. Which would be a great way to get to know us. Since we were discussing it before. I think this was the last book in my list that I really did just buy because it was super cheap.
All right.
One of our upcoming books is because I got the art copy of it. So then I bought a copy of it for you. And then one is a really popular teen book.
That stands for what? Advanced reader?
Advanced reader's copy.
Okay.
Yes. Perks of working at a bookstore. Sometimes I get good arcs. Not recently, though. The shutdown and everything, they kind of stopped doing them for a while.
Sad.
Which is unfortunate because we finally found a place. We don't usually, nobody at my location really like takes arcs, which sort of defeats the whole purpose of them existing. But we actually like just before the shutdown, the local jail asked us if we had any like new books that we could donate because they were trying to do a library program. And we were like, yeah, you can come back and get advanced readers copies every few months because we get, I don't know, probably like 1.5 a year or so. And then they immediately stopped sending us art copies after that. And I feel bad because I like those kinds of programs.
Yeah.
No, we can't help them very much. I'm sure they'll start sending us more eventually. But anyway, that was kind of a tangent to say that we have hopefully more exciting books in the future. I don't know if next year we want to try to start reading newer books. Just new books are expensive.
Yeah.
Even if you buy, even if you buy them, like Amazon has them fairly cheap, but still, hardcovers are still a lot of money, and a lot of books are only out in hardcover, obviously, to start off with.
Maybe once we get a Patreon.
Yeah. Comment below if you have like an old book that you want us to read.
Yeah.
We might do it. We might not. Yeah. I don't know. We go back and forth, but I mean, I don't have a problem taking suggestions and stuff. It does depend though. We both
Especially if
have
it's a
to
good
be
book.
interested in it. Yeah. I think that we take suggestions if both of us are interested in it, if we both look it up. Because one of
So
us would have to pick it.
no
And
promises, but
yeah. I
feel
can't
free.
make any promises.
We'd at least
Obviously,
discuss
I
it.
am super picky about the books that I choose.
Yeah.
And I think very long and hard about them.
Yes.
For sure. Alright, so that was Along the Indigo. We both gave it like 2 stars because it was boring. I mean, I guess I wouldn't say it was like super, super boring. It wasn't bad to get through.
It
It was
wasn't.
just like bland, I guess is what I would call it. I would just call it bland.
Yep.
Not exciting in any way. Heavy sigh.
That's it.
Yep.
That
That's all
sums it
she
up.
wrote. I didn't look into the author on this one. Oh, because the back of the book only, she just says that she lives in Tokyo right now with her husband and children.
Huh.
Although I don't know how true that is because this is an older copy. Not sure. I wish her all the best.
Yep.
I mean, I would say that she's a competent writer. She wrote this whole novel, and it's not bad to read. It's just the plot needs a lot more work. Characters were fine.
Yeah.
I like the characters. All right, I think it's clear that we are just rambling at this point.
I think so. Yep.
And not really saying anything at all. So yeah, that was Along the Indigo. Those are our thoughts. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We gave you a lot of things to comment about, I feel like. What
We
did we
tried
say?
anyway.
Yeah, what did we say? Comment your questions. If you have any questions for us about like who we are, comment. Book ideas. Comment if you liked the episode. If you've read this book and you loved it, please tell me why.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounded really sarcastic, but it really wasn't.
No, we want to know.
Like, I would genuinely like to know, like, what about this book would stick out to somebody that they would say that they really liked it. Because I'm sure that there are people out there who have read this book who are like, I absolutely love that book. It's my favorite. Maybe there's only like 5 or 6. I don't know. Judging from how many reviews this book has on like Amazon and Goodreads, there's probably not that many people, but there's got to be someone out there who wants to defend this book.
All right.
Not really a challenge, but maybe
we'll
it.
find
I don't
them
know.
in our comments.
Maybe we'll have to dig really deep because we get so many comments. I think we've gotten like 3 on 5, and well, this will be the 5th.
So yeah, if you want to comment on anything at all, in fact, just leave it for us.
Yeah. Literally anything. Anything you want to say. It's not like horrible, I guess. I don't know. You can tell us that you hate us, I guess. It'll boost us in the algorithm, so I don't care.
Yep.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Along the Indigo by Elsie Chapman. Not highly recommended. Both gave it 2 stars. All right. See you guys next month. Bye.
Bye.